is good, y'all? Welcome back to my channel, and today we are having onion rings, one of my favorite, not one of, my favorite appetizers. I got these from Red Robin. I got, they have like this called they have like a big tall tower. I got two of the mini towers, they're O-ring shorty. And I got chili cheese fries. I've never had them from there before. I know that they're famous for their burgers, but their burgers have never really got me, but I love their onion rings. It's just one of those things. I haven't been to Red Robin in a while, so hopefully they hold up. They came with this sauce, which I don't know if it's like a spicy mayo sauce and like a ranch. So I'm just going with it being spicy mayo. I'll try it. I'm sure it's delicious. And today, guys, we're going to be talking one of my favorite, not one of, again, my favorite subgenre of movies, gangster movies. Probably the type of movies I've rewatched the most. But before we get started with the list, I'm going to satisfy my onion ring craving. And I'm going to try this sauce. I don't know what it's all about, but we'll find out. Mmm. Did y'all hear the crunch? That is what an onion ring is supposed to sound like when you bite into it. Take notes, anybody who has an onion ring shop, and your onion rings don't sound like that. They don't, and like if I had got them at the restaurant, they were just like delivered to the table, it would have been even crunchier. Let me get a bite of these fries. Now they have like Western style fries. You know what, I might just dive in. I got a fork here, I might just dive in. Okay. I'm really just here for onion rings. I'm gonna plow those through first, and then if I'm still hungry, I'm gonna have those. If not, I'm gonna warm it up later for dinner. But the onion rings is why I went to Red Robin. Ah, man, have one more of these boys. You know, we gotta get in this list. We're gonna be here a while. This is not one I'm gonna be able to eat a little bit in the beginning for. So here's the deal. Let me just get a little bite of this first. Let's try the ranch. Absolutely delicious, y'all. Here's the deal with the list of gangster movies. You know what we're talking about. So, what qualifies? Now, first off, a lot of you have been watching my channel for a while. You guys know one of my favorite movies of all time is A Bronx Tale. The Bronx Tale is not on this list. I don't personally consider it a gangster movie. It has gangster elements in it, but that's not the focal point. I think it's more of a coming-of-age story, more a family story, more drama, and with some romantic element and gangster element. They're in there, but I just don't consider that. If you do, you're like, Scott, I love Bronx Tale. It's my #1 gangster movie, or it's in my list. Cool, I'm not gonna argue with you. It's just personally not for me. So I'm gonna go 10 to 1, obviously, but we're not gonna start the best. I'll spoil the party. So number 10, and then once we get to number 2, before I get to 1, we're gonna do honorable mentions. I'm gonna go over I'm just gonna run down a list of movies that would be in like the next bunch that I didn't rank, but are some of my other favorite ones. They just didn't reach the top 10. Now there's one of those movies in there I know that some people are gonna have a problem with, me not including. The onion rings at a party. But that does, I mean, I want to get some of the jalapeno involved. I will get them involved. So, what's a gangster movie? It has to have a strong element of the crime underworld in it. There has to be at least one person or a group of people that just don't care about the law anymore and live within a life of crime on some level. This could be mafia, this could be street gang, this could be and any kind of mafia. This could be a group of guys who rob banks, a group of guys who just commit jobs and robberies or whatever together. You know, whatever. Now, I would like you guys to leave. You don't have to do a ranking if you want, that'd be awesome. But all I really ask is just leave a couple, leave at least your favorite. I love talking about these types of movies. But let's get into number 10, with that being said. And there's one common theme in this list I didn't even realize until after I got done. Number 10 is Carlito's Way. Carlito's Way stars Al Pacino. It's directed by Brian De Palma. It's about Carlito Briganti. Carlito was a drug kingpin in New York. He was a boss. Then he went to jail. He gets out on a technicality, and instead of wanting to go back into that world that he knows, he wants to get out. He wants to go escape to paradise, and he has a dream. But he realizes it's hard to get away from that life. Now there's a romantic element in it, which for me, it doesn't hurt the movie, but it's overdone just a little bit. I don't mind I usually don't like a lot of romance in my gangster movies, just because that's not what it should be about. But this guy, he's trying to get out of it. He's trying to get away from that life. All right, let's go. I'll tell you all how I made this list and where you guys can go to do something like your own movies or whatever. Number 9 is King of New York. Stars Christopher Walken, Lawrence Fishburne, and is directed by Abel Ferrara. Need some more. I need some of that chili on there. So let me just see how this chili is straight up. My bad. Not my fork over there. Yeah, so King of New York, Frank White. You probably heard of his name. Biggie called himself Frank White, King of New York. Frank got out of jail. He gets back with his old crew and is trying to take over the city. His goal is to become mayor. His goal is to become the King of New York. And similar to Carlito, like, there's benefits and there's not so benefits to that world. It's a very dark style movie. It's one of the first. It got a lot of criticism because Frank White is a white guy and his crew is mostly African American guys and women. And that's who he enlists in his crew. That's who he trusts. Lawrence Fishburne is in this. Lawrence Fishburne is tremendous in this movie. This is probably my favorite Lawrence Fishburne movie, if I'm to say. He just knows what he's doing in this movie. His energy is good. This is early hip-hop days. The way they use hip-hop in there, Schoolie D, is fantastic. King of New York. And goes without saying, when I'm going through all these movies, I recommend every single one of them if you haven't seen them. I'm going to dig on some fries before I go to number 8. Yeah, those two are great movies. They have every one of these movies just has elements of it that it's like, just because it's further down the list doesn't mean I don't like it. I love every one of these movies. And when I get to honorable mentions, I like them. It's a good little fry right there. Got some chili on it. Not bad, not bad. I'm mixed on like steak fries. I kind of like them, but then they're kind of heavier than like a regular fry. I can eat more regular fries. Anyway, let's go to number 8. Casino, directed by Martin Scorsese. This has Joe Pesci in it, Robert De Niro. This is a great movie. It's stylish, takes place in Las Vegas. During when the mafia was still there, right in the mafia's last little reign in Las Vegas. Robert De Niro plays Ace, who's like a gambling professional. His right-hand man is Nicky, played by Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci is tremendous in this movie. He is like 4'8", but has the energy and power of somebody who's like 6'5", 300. Like, he just has a presence. Robert De Niro has on a fresh suit in every scene. The dialogue between the mobsters in this is good. Now there's another movie in this list that some people put above Casino, or put above, put like a Casino better than that we're gonna get to, but we'll get to that later. What holds Casino back, it is it's about 3 hours, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I don't mind that. I don't mind the length, but in this case, that last half hour is, some of it drags and I don't like. While they're in the midst of it, while they're on the rise, I love it. It's stylish. It takes you into that Las Vegas where all these movies are about being, for me, it's like a roller coaster ride. I'm being taken into a world that I don't know anything about. That's a dangerous world. That's a violent world. And I have no risk of harm, but I can observe everything. This is the closest I can ever get to observing these things safely. Number 7 is Juice, directed by Ernest Dickerson and starring Tupac Shakur and Omar Epps. This movie, when I first saw this movie, it was one of the best acting performances I had saw at the time. My mom worked for cable. The cable company, I should say. And I got to watch a lot of movies. When I saw this, I kind of knew I was just getting into hip hop and I had learned who Tupac was, but I didn't make the correlation yet. I was pretty young, like at the time. I think I was like only like 10. His performance in this movie is tremendous. So the movie is about this there's like a little ragtag group of kids from Harlem, and they call themselves the Wrecking Crew. Now, they're not a gang. They're just a group of friends, and they steal some records, some food, whatever, nothing bad. However, Tupac's character, Bishop, goes off the rails. He doesn't like these little petty crimes. He wants to be like a kingpin. He wants to be a boss. And the turn he makes and the character that he becomes, it's basically a battle between him and Omar Epps. I wouldn't want to spoil the movie in any way for any of you who haven't seen it, but Tupac's acting in this movie, it was his first feature film he acted in, and it's, he's the type of guy, he was just so multi-talented, He could write, he could perform, he could rap, he wrote amazing poetry, and he acted. This was his first feature film, and then he did Poetic Justice as well. He did Above the Rim. He did a lot of movies, and he was a great actor. Like, other people wanted to work with him. There's stories of actors at that time that worked with him and were able to see his talent level. And I love his music, and I love him more as a person because he was just so deep, and he was high level. He was tapped in. Let's just be honest. He was very what we would call woke. He was just aware and had used his common sense to know what was going on in the world. But he was a part of that world. Nonetheless, I digress. As a movie fan, I'm mad that we got robbed of not only the information he could have gave us, but the acting performances we could have got. He's tremendous in Juice. It's just as someone who turns from being just a regular high school kid into a gangster. But if you have, yeah, that's another one. Of course, I haven't seen it. Check it out. Number 6, Reservoir Dogs. Reservoir Dogs. You hear that crunch even when you bend it? Is directed by Quentin Tarantino, and is basically about a group of guys who nobody knows each other's names. They're all colors: Mr. Pink, Mr. White, Mr. Blonde, Mr. Blue, Mr. Brown. The whole crew. You don't know their names. It's an hour-and-a-half movie. It's made on a low budget. Great dialogue. It's Quentin Tarantino's first feature film. Amazing movie. Simple. It's what I love about a movie. It's just nice and simple. I call it the Halloween of gangster movies because it's bare bones, minimal cast. There's a great way they talk to each other, and you don't even see the bank heist. It's a bank heist movie that's amazing, but you never even see the heist. Excuse me. But the way they pull it off, tremendous. Tremendous. I'll be honest, I like this sauce better than I like the ranch. It's all classics. Number 5 is The Usual Suspects. An ensemble cast. It's a group of just dudes. I forget who directed. Let me just check over. Directed. I'm gonna kick myself. Bryan Singer. He did a lot of X-Men movies too. But yeah, it has Kevin Spacey in there. Benicio del Toro. Benicio del Toro in one of his, probably in my favorite Benicio del Toro movie. One of the best twists you'll ever see in a movie. Well acted across the board. Just the way it's an old-fashioned modern gangster movie. It's like it was made in modern times, but has a lot of the stylings of like a noir or like it's an old-fashioned gangster movie. And you guys haven't noticed, I don't have any of that old stuff on there, and you're not really going to hear anything old, just as a little mini spoiler. But yeah, they're just a group of guys that get together, they commit crimes, and they're ultimately yeah, I wouldn't even want to go close to getting in this movie because I could borderline spoil it. But it's so good. If you have not seen The Usual Suspects, do not look it up. Don't look anything up online, because if you look up the ending, it'll ruin the entire movie for you. So don't do that. The Usual Suspects, though, amazing movie. I first saw it when I went to business college, and they had a film study class. So of course was I not going to take that and get those free credits and sit around and watch movies? So after you watch the most overrated movie of all time, Citizen Kane, the second movie we watched was Usual Suspects, and it was like the second time I watched it, but first time I was like locked in, and watching it in that class and watching it like in an academic manner where you're able to kind of read things, where you're breaking it down, the professor's kind of helping you, he's telling you things of what's going on. I cracked my neck. But it's absolutely a great movie. The style is cool. The score in it is still used in a lot of scores today. I think I can go off the top of my head for the rest of the movies, but we'll go into number 4 in just a moment. Let me just get back in this ranch. Delicious. Delicious. Doing a ranking like this was hard to do in general because I'm like, I gotta put this below that, whatever. But no, 4 through 1 were really hard. So there's not much separating them. A lot of it is rewatchability and just things that appeal to what I want to watch in a movie. Now, like I said, all these are amazing flicks. Number 4 is The Godfather Part 2. Now, you could technically put either Godfather movie on here because they both would qualify. However, number 2 is more of a gangster movie. And it's a more gangster, it's similar to Juice in the fact where there's someone that's connected and is surrounded by this life of crime. It's a different kind of story, obviously, it's a way different kind of story, but it's someone who isn't in the life of crime, but then either by choice or by obligation gets involved. Michael Corleone, played by Al Pacino, is directed by Francis Ford Coppola. I think everybody should have seen The Godfather by now. The Godfather is one of the best movies ever made, but in this movie, Michael is just ruthless. He just turns into a person. He just does things in this movie where, because it's such a real world setting. The first one, the boss, played by Marlon Brando, the Dime, he's like he's a gangster, but he's also has some humanity in him. He's more connected with emotions. He's older, but like when he's younger, you could probably see he was probably more like his son. But like Michael just doesn't care in this movie. He does things that are so ruthless. The way they shoot the movie is absolutely gorgeous. It's one of the most beautifully shot movies. It's 3 hours long. And just his descent into madness. Everybody else around him. One of my favorite characters in Godfather franchise is Frankie Five Angels. He took Clemenza's place, so to speak, and yeah, it's just amazing. But it's someone that's just really, they're in that life and they really just have no humanity left in them. The things he does in the name of business and his best interests is just awful. But it's such a beautifully shot movie. The way they use the camera angles. It's a lot about seeing how people think. And you're watching the movie, and the point of the movie, kind of, as I see it, is you want to think how he thinks. How is he thinking? Like, and you get to think how someone like that thinks, and like they just are. You find out they're disconnected from the world. They have no conscience left, and they're sociopaths. But he's a high level sociopath. I'm gonna fold up on these onion rings. They're delicious though. That batter just coats your stomach. We're getting down to the nitty gritty of this list. Number 3 is one I probably have watched more than any of these other movies on this list. I think so. And that is Goodfellas, also directed by Martin Scorsese, and just like Casino, stars Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro. They're almost like same character, especially Joe Pesci is from Nicky in Casino, and then he's Tommy in Goodfellas. Just a ruthless human being. Just he's like a cowboy. He's in the mafia, but he might as well be a cowboy. He just does what he wants. And you got Ray Liotta in there, who's a rat. This is based on a true story. It's just one of the most the scenes, and there isn't a bad scene in the movie. Honestly, there isn't a bad scene. The helicopter scene, the jail scene. There's so many good scenes in this movie. The dialogue amongst the characters. I think it's Martin Scorsese's best movie, in my opinion. That could probably be argued. I'll pour some more water before I have another couple onion rings. I thought I could win an onion ring eating contest. I don't know if I could, but alright. Yeah, it's just beautifully shot. Goodfellas. The soundtrack is I don't really like this. The songs are good in the context of the film that they're in. Paul Sorvino plays Paulie. It just is like a gangster's life from when he wanted to be a gangster, when he was in the prime of being a gangster, like the rise, and then what caused the fall. And what caused the fall, a lot of these movies, is drugs getting involved. But yeah, Goodfellas, I don't have to say a lot about it. It's one of the best movies ever made, period. Let me just get some of this chili off the top. I'm not really feeling the fries, so I'm just gonna get some of this chili off the top. Number 2 and number 1 were really hard to distinguish between the two. As I mentioned, these are all very close to each other. Number 2 is the greatest bank heist movie ever, and there's no argument I want to hear. You can't give me any bank heist movie that's as good as this, and that's Heat. Heat is directed by Michael Mann, stars Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in the same flick. You get Danny Trejo in there to boot, and it takes place in L.A. Al Pacino's the cop. Robert De Niro's the lead bank robber. This disciplined guy who follows a set of rules. He's a loner. The way they use color. This movie is another one of the ones that's just well shot, but it's a modern one. The way they use blues in this movie, it's just so. The way they use color and the way the character's subtle movements, instead of touching something, like hitting the little button to open up a door, he uses his elbow. There's so much little stuff going on in this movie. The opening scene when their truck hits the armored truck, and I'm not gonna blow for anybody. You know what I mean, this is early on in the movie. When their truck hits that armored truck, if you got a good sound system in your house, it looks like it feels like a truck is going through your living room. The way the sound is a character in this movie. It's just about robbing banks. It's Al Pacino as the cop. He is just out of his mind, but he's so in control. He's out of his mind, but he's in control. He's like the lead detective trying to hunt them down. The way they talk, oh my god! It's just when it first came out, I didn't want to watch it. But once I watched it, and I don't know why I didn't want to watch it. I don't know why I was against it. I was like, what are they trying to do? The Godfather being a 3-hour movie? If Godfather might be, it's arguable. I don't even want to get into that conversation. But there's a scene with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino in a diner. It's one of the most iconic scenes ever, in my opinion. Getting those two together, acting in the same, and seeing it in widescreen. Oh, I can't say enough about Heat. Let me get an onion ring here. And then we're going to get into honorable mentions. Alright, so I got 3, 4, 7 honorable mentions here. There could probably be a few more. This is just what I went with off the top of my head. Let's get the first one out of the way, because guys, this isn't number 1. It isn't. And you can unsubscribe down below. Say, Scott, I don't trust your taste in movies anymore. I don't really care to watch. Even if I didn't care about your movie opinion before, now I definitely don't care about it. Because one of the honorable mentions, it would probably be in the next couple. I don't know where it would be. I didn't think about ranking these. But one of the honorable mentions is Scarface. Scarface is a great movie. I know it's beloved. And I loved it when I first found out about it, watched it. There's a few things in it that keep it out of the top 10 for me and put movies like Carlito's Way and King of New York above it. King of New York is more of a raw, it has a good cult feel to it, has an artistic feel to it. Scarface, there's a few times in the movie, and this is the only one I'm going to just go over and defend myself, and go down in the comments. If you want to discuss this back and forth, I'm more than happy to, because I know this is going to be like the one that people are going to get most mad about. There's a few times where music's like bum, 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 bum. It's like fairy tale music. When he goes to see his mom, there's like fairy tale music. And Tony has like a bit of like an obsession with his sister that's a little bit sick. Like, he's in love with his sister. That's kind of weird, is it not? But it's a great movie nonetheless. And the other ones, I'll just run through them. Menace to Society, Blow, Pulp Fiction, Boys in the Hood, The Departed, and The Untouchables. Those would be my, State of Grace, Donnie Brasco. I just thought of those while I'm doing this. Yeah, State of Grace, Donnie Brasco. Also other are the great ones. And number one, my favorite gangster movie of all time, and this is hard to do. I went when I put this number one above Heat and above Goodfellas. It got there not for rewatchability, because it is rewatchable, because this is a movie you have to sit down and watch. You just have to sit, like, I can't, I mean I could, but it's kind of hard to, like, there's Heat, Goodfellas, I can put those on and just walk around the house, be cleaning, whatever, you know. City of God is number one. It is directed by Fernando Meirelles and Katia Lund. It is an amazing movie. It takes place in Rio de Janeiro, and as I mentioned before, like, I love movies, these movies, because they take me into a world I know nothing about. And I got to what I talked about when I talked about Parasite yesterday. They take me to this world I don't know anything about, like the gangster life. I've never lived it, and in this case, I know even less, because I've been to LA. I've watched gangster movies. These people are speaking English to each other, like they take place in America. I kind of am there on some level. Like it's not a world that's completely unknown to me. This movie takes place in Rio de Janeiro, one of the notoriously the worst crime-ridden places per capita ever, in the slum of Rio de Janeiro. It shows as things got worse there. It takes place, the first part is in the 60s, just kind of just lays out the foundation where a lot of these characters came from and who they become. The bulk of the movie is in the 70s. You see the movie through a few different people's eyes. Through Rocket, who is just a young kid. He's very relatable. He's going to be somebody, he's going to be the most relatable character in the movie when you watch it, or if you have watched it, you know what I'm saying. He's just a regular guy. He has crushes on girls. He wants to be a photographer, and it's his coming of age story almost. And that's probably why I like his evolution as a person, and how he balances living in this terrible area to following his dream. You know what I mean? You got him, you got Benny, who is one of the coolest gangsters, and this is a world where the cop, like all these other movies I mentioned, the cops are a force, and they're like the bad guys, so to speak. You know what I mean? They're going after the gangsters. They're trying to shut them down in one way or another. The cops here in these movies are essentially useless. The gangsters run everything, and the gangsters range from ages about 7 to about 20 something, because that's about the lifespan. You see people that are good, they get worse. They're Lil Zay. He wants to be the boss. He wants to be the king of the town. And kind of like, again, with like Michael and Godfather, he does whatever he has to do as far as his competition goes to get there. And you're just seeing this world that you've never seen before. This is as close as I'll ever get to being in that slum, and how bad it is, and these young kids that become criminals, and the things they have to do to get initiated, the way they talk to each other. It's in Portuguese, so there is subtitles. Again, like I mentioned on Parasite yesterday, if that deters you, then you're gonna miss out on a great experience. City of God is one of the best movies. I've ranked my all-time movies, period. It's in the top 5. It's probably 3. Amazing movie. It's shot beautifully. It's the only movie that's, if you haven't noticed throughout this list, that isn't in the 90s. Most of these movies are in the 90s. They take place in the 90s, except for Godfather and City of God. City of God is 2003, and the fact that it wasn't even nominated for Best Foreign Film and the Oscars when it was up is absolutely criminal. Guys, City of God, you're just taken into this world you know anything about, and you get to see just the rise, fall, and just how living in this type of environment can cause you to, the type of person it can cause you to become or not become. But guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I know this is primarily an onion ring mukbang, but I've been craving them. Now my stomach is full. I probably won't crave them again for a while. Red Robin is the place to go for onion rings. I don't know where I'm ranking them. I'm gonna eventually be doing like a tournament of onion rings. Sonic will be on there. Anyway, I digress. Guys, thank you for joining me today. I greatly appreciate your time. Please leave your favorite gangster movies below. If you want to do a ranking, you just want to give me 1, give me 2, whatever. I appreciate it. Let's talk about it. I will see you guys again soon. Until then, take care and be well.